Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the Parliament, and these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion under this particular series, like starting with the introduction part, organization of Parliament, composition of the two houses, system of elections to the Lok Sabha, duration of two houses, membership of Parliament, presiding officers of Parliament, leaders in Parliament, sessions of Parliament, devices of parliamentary proceedings, legislative procedure in Parliament, joint sitting of two houses, budget in Parliament, multifunction role of Parliament, ineffectiveness of parliamentary control, position of Rajya Sabha, parliamentary privileges, and the sovereignty of the Parliament. Okay, so this is the picture that we have created so far. Sorry, these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion. Out of this, we have done with the introduction part, organization of Parliament, composition of two houses, system of election to the Lok Sabha, duration of two houses, membership of Parliament, presiding officers of Parliament, leaders of Parliament, and basically the topic we have been discussing upon is the sessions of the Parliament. All right, and the topics that we are left with: devices of parliamentary proceedings, legislative procedure in Parliament, joint sitting of two houses, budget in Parliament, multifunction role of Parliament, ineffectiveness of parliamentary control, position of Rajya Sabha, parliamentary privileges, and the sovereignty of the Parliament. Okay, so this is the picture that we have created so far altogether. So basically we will start from where we had left in the previous lecture. All right, so basically in the previous lecture we had been discussing upon the voting in the houses. All right, and we had discussed that all matters at sitting of either house or joint sitting of both the houses are directly decided by the majority of the votes. Okay, it means that if the votes in majority in favor, so the resolution would be passed. If not, then the resolution will be failed. Only a few matters, okay, like this is the impeachment of president, amendment of the constitution, removal of the presiding officers, and so on. These requires a special majority, which means 50% of the person sitting and voting and 2/3 strength of the person sitting and voting. Okay, the presiding officer does not vote directly as like the ordinary members, and basically they having the casting vote system. Okay, the proceedings of a house are to be valid irrespective of any unauthorized voting, participation, or any vacancy in its membership. All right, after this, there are certain facts that we are required to cover. Is the following facts that can be noted with respect to the voting procedure in the Lok Sabha. On the conclusion of a debate, the speaker shall put the question and invite those who are in favor of the motion to say A and those against the session no. Okay, it means that we can say basically for favor and for against. Okay, there are certain code words. For favor, the code word is A. For against, the code word is no. All right. The speaker shall then say, I think the A's or the no's, as the case may be, have it. If the opinion of the speaker as to the decision of the question is not challenged, he shall say twice, the A's or the no's, as the case may be, have it, and the question before the house shall be determined according. Got it? Thereafter, if the opinion of the speaker as to the decision of a house is challenged, he shall order that lobby to be cleared. Okay? Thereafter, after the lapse of 3 minutes 30 seconds, he shall put the question a second time and declare whether in his opinion the A's or no's have. If the opinion is so declared is again challenged, he shall direct that the votes would be recorded either by operating the automatic vote recorder or by using A or no slips in the house or by the members going into the lobbies. All right. If, in the opinion of the speaker, the division is unnecessarily claimed, he may ask the members who are for A and those for no respectively to rise in their places and on account being taken. He may declare that the determination of the House, in such a case, the names of voters shall not be recorded. Okay. So these are the provisions for the voting the Lok Sabha. After this, now, if we talk about the language in Parliament, like if we talk about the Parliament's proceedings, which we often call it as an parliamentary proceedings. All right. So if there are proceedings, then there must be some language in which they will be held, right? There must be some language in which they will be held. Okay. So what is that language? So we are going to say it. The Constitution has declared Hindi and English to be the languages for transacting business in the Parliament. Okay. Like if we talk about it, we know India, there are so many languages. All right. There are so many languages and accents. And we know that there are 22 official languages also. Okay. And out of all these, only the Hindi and the English are allowed for proceedings in the Parliament and transact the business. However, the presiding officer can permit a member to address the House in his mother tongue. Okay. But it is depends upon the discretion of the presiding officer. It is not compulsory position, but discretionary provision. All right. In both the houses, arrangements are made for simultaneous translation. Okay. It means that suppose if there is any member, okay, and the member is not comfortable with the language in which the business is going on, whether it's Hindi, English, or any mother tongue or regional language. Okay. So basically, it is very, very important. The person who is listening the proceedings and he is unable to understand the languages in which the proceedings are going on, then he must get some translation in a language he or she comfortable with. All right. So English was to be discontinued as a floor language after the expiration of 15 years from the commencement of the Constitution. It means 1965 because we know in 1950 the Constitution was commenced. The Official Languages Act 1963 allowed English to be continued along with Hindi. All right. It means that once the Constitution was commenced in India, that was the year of 1950. Basically, that was a plan that we will continue the English as an official language of the Parliament till 1965 only. It means for the time period of 15 years only. All right, till the time period of 15 years on. But then what happened? Just before the 2 years of the completion of the time period in 1963, basically the Official Languages Act was passed and that made English to be continued along with Hindi. So that's why we have two languages nowadays. Otherwise, we would have only one language, that would be a Hindi. Okay. Thereafter, if we talk about the rights of ministers and the Attorney General. So what are their rights? Okay. In addition to the members of a house, every minister and the Attorney General of India have the right to speak and take part in the proceedings of either house, any joint sitting of both the houses, any committee of the parliament which he is a member without being entitled to vote. Okay. It means that they not having voting powers, but will have speaking powers. Okay, that's the thing. There are two reasons underlying this constitutional provision. All right, a minister can participate in the proceedings of the house of which he is not a member. Okay, it means that if he is belong to the Rajya Sabha, then he could take the proceedings in the house of Lok Sabha. Okay. Similarly, if he is in the house of Lok Sabha, and you can say if he is a member of Lok Sabha, then he could take the participation in Rajya Sabha. All right. In other words, a minister belonging to the Lok Sabha can participate in the proceedings of Rajya Sabha and the vice versa. The same I have told you just now. Okay. A minister who is not a member of either house can participate in the proceedings of both the houses. It should be noted here that a person can remain a minister for 6 months without being a member of either house of parliament. Okay. It means that after the expiration of 6 months, he could not be a minister. All right. It means that he is required to get elected to the house within the 6 months. After this, now we have the lame duck session. Lame duck session. What is it? So basically, it is refers to the last sessions of the existing Lok Sabha after a new Lok Sabha has been elected. It means that suppose if on 1st January 2001, the Lok Sabha was first met. So on 31st December 2006, the tenure would be open. All right. So whichever session would be happen on 31st December 2006 or nearby would be known as the lame duck session. Okay. It means that it is the last session of that existing Lok Sabha. Then the elections would be happen and new Lok Sabha would be elected. Okay. Those members of the existing Lok Sabha who could not get re-elected to the new Lok Sabha are called the lame ducks. Okay. After this, now we have the devices of parliamentary proceedings. Okay. It means that we have completed the session of the parliaments. Now there are devices of parliamentary proceedings. So, question now. Okay. So the first hour of every parliamentary sitting is allotted for this. And we know in the parliament there are two sittings. Morning and then post lunch. Okay. Morning sitting we know. You can say starts from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. and the post lunch we know from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. All right. So every first hour, it means usually 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Okay. So, and you can say in the second from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. All right. So that will be the timings of questioning hours. Okay. So during these times, the members ask the questions and the ministers usually give answers. All right. The members are basically belongs to the opposition parties. Usually, I'm not saying compulsory. Usually. Okay. And then they ask the questions from the ministers. And if we talk about the ministers, we know they are usually belong to the ruling party. That's why they are required to give the answers. All right. And the questions, if we talk about, there are the types of questions. And what are these types? So the questions are usually of the three types, like stated question, unstated question, short notice. Stated question, unstated, and the short notice. Okay. Stated questions distinguished by the asterisks. Okay. Requires an oral answer and hence supplementary questions can follow. It means that suppose the member asks one question to the minister. Okay. Then once the minister will finish, for example, let me give an example. Basically, suppose there is a member. He is a member, for example, and there is a minister, for example, aviation minister. Okay. And suppose there is the member who asked the question about sailing of Indian Airlines. All right. And if the question is stated question, then the aviation minister is required to give the answer verbally or orally. Verbally or orally. Okay. This is the stated question. All right. And if we talk about the case of supplementary question, so we can say in the first instance, basically he was asking for the reason like why the government is selling the Indian Airlines. In the supplementary question, for example, he asked about the provisions of offer government giving to the buyers, or you can say interested buyer. All right. This is the thing. Like main question and the supplementary questions could be happen during the state questions time. After this, unstated question. On the other hand, it requires a written answer and hence supplementary questions cannot follow. It means that if we take this example, the member who has asked for the reason of selling of Indian Airlines, okay, to the aviation minister, then during the state question, he could give the verbal or the oral answer. But if this is the case of unstated question, then verbal and oral answer is not required. Okay. Instead of this, the written answer is required. Okay. After this, short notice question is one that is asked by a given notice of not less than 10 days. Sorry, less than 10 days. Okay. It means that short notice question is not asked on the same day. It means that suppose if I am the member, okay, and you are the, you can say the minister, okay. While we were in the parliamentary session, suddenly I recalled that there is something on which I could ask you the question. So if this is stated or the unstated question, then I could ask it. But if it is of the nature of short notice, then I could not ask you on the same time, on the same day. It means that I require to give you the notice of less than 10 days, then only I would receive the answer. All right. So this is the thing. And basically this question is usually answered orally. Okay. In addition to the ministers, the question can also be asked to the private members. Private members are basically, you can say, not holding any department or ministry. Okay. So basically those members of the Lok Sabha, and you can say not Lok Sabha specifically, those members of the parliament who are the member of parliament and they not holding any department or minister. So these are called as a private members. So here you can write it also. Ministers, private members. What is the definition of it? Parliamentary member holding any ministry or public departments. Parliamentary member holding any ministry or public departments. Okay, these are the ministers. After this, if we talk about the private members, parliamentary member not holding any ministry or the public department. Okay, so this is the official definition of the ministers and the private members. Please keep this in your mind. Thus, a question may be addressed to the private member if the subject matter of the questions relate to some bill, resolution, or the matter connected or concerned with the business of the house for which that member is responsible. Suppose the member belongs to some constituency. For example, let me give you an example. Okay. Belong to some constituency. All right. And here, basically, there is a some bill, some resolution, and some matter which is connected with the constituency from which he is a parliamentary member. Okay. So in such a case, the question could be asked him. Okay. Could be asked him about the things like what is going on in your constituency, what was the reason, how things should be implemented, and the private member in this cases becomes liable to answer them out. All right. And the procedure in this regard to such question is same as that followed in the questions of address to a minister. It means that that could be Stated question, unstated question, and short notice. Stated, unstated, and the short notice. Okay. So the list of stated, unstated, and the short notice questions and the questions to the private members are printed in green, white, light pink, and yellow colors respectively, so that they could be distinguished from one another. Okay, it means that the respective colors given to the respective question. For example, suppose if the stated questions green, unstated questions white, and the short notice light pink, then whatever the color the question having, it could be easy to identify that whether the question is stated, whether the question is unstated, or whether the question is of the short notice. All right. After the questioning hour, the another one is the 0 hour. Okay. So unlike the questioning hour, the 0 hour is not mentioned in the rules of procedure. Okay. Remember this, they are not mentioned in the rules of procedure. Okay. This is an informal device available to the members of the parliament to raise methods without any prior notice. It means that suppose during the session, if it's find out that this is an urgent topic to discuss, okay, the topic is urgent to be discussed. All right. So is it good to give the prior notice, then consider it and then discuss? No, because that will be a delay of time. Okay, so that's why to you can say overcome these lapses, basically these things are there. It means that whenever there is a you can say any topic which is of urgent you can say need to the people, basically without giving any prior notice, the topic will be discussed in the parliament. The 0 hour starts immediately after the questioning hour and lasts until the agenda for the day. Therefore, regular business of the house is taken up. Okay. In other words, the time gap between the questioning hour and the agenda is known as 0 hour. Okay. It is an Indian innovation in the field of parliamentary procedure and has been in existence since 1962. It means that basically this is not you can say some kind of borrowed one, but that was a provision available in the other constitution also, because it is innovation, not invention. But later we modified it as per our needs. Okay, and this procedure has been extended in 1962. All right. So students, basically in this lecture we have finished till here. In the next lecture we will continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture. Be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say thank you.